Hey everybody, this is Lomi, and recently I asked if anyone was interested in seeing me do a face-up in real time instead of my usual sped-up videos, so I'm gonna give it a try. This probably won't be as polished as my usual videos because I'm still kind of figuring out how this works, and I'm also going to be talking through the process as I go, but I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. I'm painting my daughter's Christmas doll, and she's asked for a really simple face-up, so hopefully I'll be able to get it all done tonight. I am going to be trying out some new pastels because they were really cheap, but I've seen really good things about them, so I'm looking forward to giving them a shot. And I'm going to show you the process of picking out and mixing my paint and things as well. I typically use gouache for my face-ups now just because it's easier to thin out, and it's also easier to wash off if I make mistakes, which I do a lot. Most of the time I end up mixing my own custom colors. This is a color chart of what came in my Arteza gouache box. I usually start with this brown, and I've written down the numbers of all of them, but I didn't write down the names, so I have no idea what that one is called. But I usually start with this one, and then I mix it either with like the cream or the light yellow, or with this darker brown or even black to get my colors for lashes and the eyebrows. Very occasionally there will be other colors that come to play in a face-up that I might use to change the tone of it. Sometimes people might want, like white or even gray, but most of the time what I use is just like black and then shades of brown. So I'm gonna open up the box and find those. My desk is kind of a mess because this is also my first time recording a face-up since I rearranged everything in here. And I'm not really sure that I'm going to have enough room on my table for this. I think I'm going to have to go back and get a larger tabletop from IKEA or somewhere, just because I don't have space for my computer and my microphone to all be set up here at the same time. Okay, so here's the 107, that's burnt sienna. And I'm going to mix that with the 108, which is burnt umber. It takes very little gouache. I like to mix my gouache on a ceramic palette because it's really easy to clean. And also that way I can just kind of like leave the paint there to dry out if I am going to be working on a face-up that uses similar colors. Or if I can't finish it all in one day, I can just leave the paint and then re-wet it later on. I cannot get this open. Man, I might not be mixing that color after all. I'll give it one more try. I can see there's some paint crumbled around there. Come on now. Oh, it's coming. Okay, got it. Ouch, that hurt my fingers. There's a lot of paint on there. I'll try not to tighten it so much so that I can get it back off later to clean that off. So I brought a little container for my water, and there's some fresh water, but this is also going to be my drink because anytime I do a lot of talking, I always end up coughing because my throat dries out just terribly. Got all my brushes. I've found that once I have a few brushes that I really like for face-ups, I tend to stick to those. So I use the same brushes for all my face-ups for like the eyebrow shading and general blushing. And then I have a few different kinds that I use for like liner and lashes. But there's not too much variance there. And also worth mentioning is that for this face-up, I sealed using Purity Seal, which I have been saving this because you can't get it anymore. This was discontinued and replaced with a satin finish. It's like Manitorum varnish or something like that, I think it's called. And but Purity Seal was wonderful for tan dolls because it didn't have any ghosting or anything that you get sometimes with MSC. You'll get like a white haze on tan heads, and the Purity Seal didn't do that, and I'm so sad they discontinued it. But I've only got like 2 tan dolls, so I've been saving the Purity Seal just in case I need to redo their face-ups with it. Okay, so dropper and flow aid. I just shook this up so it's a little bit foamy. I like to use flow aid for thinning the gouache because it reduces the surface tension and gives me much finer and smoother lines. This is true of acrylic as well. Just another thing that I figured was worth mentioning. For the gouache, there is not really any magic ratio that I can explain. It's just a matter of wetting down the paint until it feels right. And unfortunately, every color of gouache has a different consistency, so every color feels a little bit different. It's something that you just are going to have to play around with to figure out what consistency you like. Some people like thicker paint, some people like thinner. I have a friend who thins it down until it's like water. It'll be like a whole bunch of water and just the tiniest bit of paint. And then I'm going to test this on the paper I have up here, just to see how the color looks. Yeah, it's a nice warm brown. And dry off that brush. So this is just about ready for me to paint. So I'm going to rearrange things real quick here. Alright, time to zoom in. For a lot of this process, there's not really going to be a whole lot to say. As I mentioned, this is my daughter Eevee's doll that she got for Christmas, and she asked for a very, very mild, very neutral face-up. She's going to keep the doll blonde, and she wanted her to have very fair colored eyelashes and really light, simple brows, and I really thought she would ask for a lot of color in like eyeshadow and stuff, but she didn't. She just wants it very natural, very basic shading. So the things that she asked for really surprised me, but you know, it's her doll, so hopefully she'll be happy with what I give her at the end here. You can see the lashes here that I'm doing right now. These are like really, really fine and very, very pale. And that's because the warm brown that I've mixed is really not that far off from the tan of the doll. I'm going to go back over this with a darker brown a little bit later, but I wanted to have some dimension in the lashes that I thought would help make it look a little bit more natural in the absence of really heavy shading. And of course, gouache is really easy to wash off, so if I mess up, I can just dip a corner of a paper towel into some water, wipe off, start over. I'm kind of doing like a little like V shapes with the eyelashes. So you've got 2 lashes coming from the same base point. And then And a few of them I'm gonna layer a little bit because I just feel like it looks a little bit empty. I'm going to switch my camera to manual focus so I can pull her up a little bit closer. Where's the button? It's up here somewhere. There we go. So that's a good start. All I have to do is replicate that on the other side now. Usually when I'm doing things like brows and lashes, the first side ends up looking really good and then the second side looks awful. So I anticipate wiping the other side a couple times. I actually forgot to ask her if she wanted like a cat eye liner. I guess I'll do that just because it's kind of like a default. That should be fine. I don't think she'll get mad at me if I take a little artistic liberty. Some people really strive for symmetry in their face-ups, but since we're going for something a little bit more natural, I'm not really worried about having it match from side to side. We're just gonna go for something that looks generally similar in shape and thickness, length and number of lashes. Oops, I went a little too far with that one. This is my best friend for a lot of my face-ups. It's just a Q-tip dipped in clean water. You'll have to forgive the stains on my table. I spilled green resin on it when I was casting Rillin's parts. I think if I do get a new tabletop, I'm also going to get a table protector so that I don't do that so much. I got a little long too. And the brushes this brush that I'm using right now, it's there it is. Winstonia Berry Wine. These are nail art brushes that you can get on Amazon, and they are really cheap and they are really wonderful. And most people hold the brush a little bit farther back, but I have extremely shaky hands, and I also didn't really sleep much last night, so my shakiness is a little bit aggravated today. So I'm just going to choke my brush, have my hand right up there on the throat of it. Everyone works differently, that's alright. think I need a little more, like right in here. Maybe here. You're so pale. That's not too bad. So next we're gonna figure out the brows. So brow placement. You can go from the corner of the nose to the corner of the eye, and that gives you your starting point, which should be like right around here. And then for the brow, the inner part, you go like straight up from the side of the nose. This is where the brow should be. So there to there, and for the arch, this is like the highest part there. You can go right there. This should be the highest part of the arch. That's like about a third of the way across the eye. From the outer corner, that is. And we're just gonna do some really simple brows here, I think. She just kind of indicated that she wanted the doll to look somewhat cheerful. Which is tough for me, because it's like, oh, you picked kind of a doll with a downturned mouth, baby. Even though the doll was a surprise, I had kind of gotten a feel for what she liked by showing her some pictures of the dolls that were for sale at the time. And this was the one that she told me was the absolute cutest, in her words, so that's what I ended up picking for her. I'll go ahead and get a couple lines here, maybe that'll help me. I did not get those in the right place though. It's a little better. Alright, let's try this again. Oh, my hand shook. That was pretty good until then. I think I'm gonna try to redo that one more time. I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I redo brows like 8 times or more, and sometimes I cut that out from videos just because showing me erasing it over and over and over again would make the video way too long. And I anticipate this will be at least an hour. It's not bad. The tail's a little long. So part of the reason I decided to use this brush tonight instead of the Camlin Pro is because this one has a lot longer bristles. And when my hands are really shaky, I find that having longer bristles is a lot more forgiving. So hopefully it'll make up for my my awful shakiness tonight. It's been a really busy day. So it's like I'm tired and at the same time preparing a bunch of like really important book release stuff. We finished editing book 5 for Snake's Blood Saga today. Yeah, I can't talk. And so that's formatted and the proof is on the way, so I'm really excited about that. But I also, tomorrow, so that's going to be the day that you guys get to see this, yay, because I'm filming Friday night, nothing like a last minute video, right? I am releasing the omnibus for Tahl's books, the West King's Heist series. I just don't like the S on the end of words today. And someday I'm gonna make Tahl into a doll. I swear I'm gonna do it, but not yet. And I just bundled up his novellas. It's 2 novellas, 2 short stories, and a novel into 1 edition, 1 paperback. Wow, that was a horrible stroke. But it's 1 paperback, and that's coming out tomorrow, so, or today when you guys watch this, and I'm pretty happy about that. I had really wanted to get those books into print, but because they were so short, the first 2 were so short, I couldn't really justify doing a print edition, so doing it together as like a 1 omnibus book made a lot more sense for that series. And actually, the first book in his series is going to be free on the day that this goes up on YouTube, so if you are interested in reading that one, I will drop a link in the video description and you can download it and see if you want to give it a try. I have lost my Q-tip. Where did it go? It's on the wrong side. Yeah, see, this brow on this side is just giving me fits. I think I need to rinse my brush, actually. After a while, the gouache starts to dry out in the bristles, and it gets harder and harder to keep the paint flowing nicely, and just washing out the brush and starting over can make a really big difference. So let's try. Yeah, that's flowing much better. It doesn't help the shakiness at all, but at least the paint's going more easily now. And one of the problems that you have is when the paint is not flowing well, you end up getting like really fat, gloppy looking strokes, and you're not going to be happy with those. Man, I wrecked that brow. We're gonna have to just start that one over, I think. We're just gonna wipe the whole thing off and go over again. But see that right there, that's why I love the gouache paint for face-ups. Because it's just that easy, I just wipe it off, I can start all over. No problem. Aside from the fact that, you know, I'm starting over, which is disappointing. We are going to fight with the tails all over again. Blow on the head, dry it off a little bit before I get going. If the resin is still wet, sometimes it can give you undesirable feathering. That's going a little bit better this time. to bring it down a little bit farther. This one's raised up a little higher than the other brow. Got a clump of paint on the end there though. Sometimes that happens, and then I try to wipe it off on the paper that I keep handy. Little crisscrossy hairs at the end. That's better. Close now, or close. Oh no, I messed it up. So I feel like this is either going to be way more entertaining in real time or way less entertaining. Okay, that'll do. An ugly spot right there. But instead of the Q-tip, I'm going to try to just lift this tiny spot with a wet paintbrush. It's not cheating, that's what gouache is supposed to do. It's kind of working. Alright, I'm gonna call that good enough because we're gonna blush over that anyway. We're gonna blush it, it's gonna be fine. No big deal, right? This one is farther over, so we're just gonna gently take it in a little bit. That's better. Okay, other things to do. There's a tiny bit of face-up residue left on this head. There's like a little bit of MSC back behind her ear that's a little bit ghosted, but I'm not gonna worry about it. It's good enough. It's not really gonna be visible, it's good enough. I'm gonna try to really accentuate the corners of the mouth to draw them kind of upward. See if that gives her a slightly happier look. Oh, my hands are shaking so bad. This is so difficult. We just do our best. And I'll clean it up. plain water. Lift that extra color. There. I think she needs a little bit more on this side. Alright. I think that's going to work for that. Let's see, what else do we need? We'll do eyelid creases. My camera can only record for like 15 minutes at a time, and then it shuts off. So I apologize if anything gets cut off. I'm just gonna do my best. Alright. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to grab a black watercolor pencil. I got my artisanal ones right here. Let me just throw my sample chart in the floor. That's perfect. I'm gonna start the liner with the pencil on the inside. Sometimes the inside of the eye well is smoother enough that I can do all the liner with it, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do it this time. Okay, no problem. It was worth a try. So now I need more gouache. I need the black. There we go. Which is also super tight. What have I done to myself? Okay, here we go. Same brush, black liner. I'm just gonna do really tiny little wings. Oh, I do remember one thing Eevee said she wanted, which was 2 eyelashes going up. So let's see if I can do that with the liner. Alright, got the little corner started. I'm going to switch to a slightly bigger brush. This is a Princeton liner brush. This is meant for watercolor. It works really well with gouache. Gouache is almost like watercolor, honestly. It's very similar. It's just like watercolor with chalk in it. The chalk is what gives it its opacity. That's why it's not transparent like watercolor is. But it can be if you thin it down a lot, so this just very quickly became my favorite paint because it's so versatile. Okay. Alright, so the inside of the eye is lined. Now I'm going to try to just angle my brush a little bit so I get some black just outside the eye. Just a tiny bit. It's a little rough, a little uneven, but we'll smooth that out momentarily. Rinse out that brush, and I'm going to go back to something smaller. I think I'll try one of my other berry wine brushes. This one is just a little bit shorter. So the shorter bristles give you a lot more control, which is not something that I want for the lashes and things right now since my hands are so shaky. I'll probably need to tidy up the edges of this using the watercolor pencil on one of the next layers. Oh, I got a dollop where I didn't want it to go. Stay in there though. That is just gonna stay. Alright, we gotta do 2 lashes going up. Let's see. That was bad. There we go. We can save it. We can save it. Yeah, I did it on that one too. I think it must be this brush because I don't have as much flick with it. Yeah, we're gonna switch that brush. That did not go well at all. I'm gonna try cleaning that one up with a brush. Get some extra water on my glove. Whew. Look at that bleed. We're just gonna... Well, too much water on my brush to clean it off. It's alright though. Got it. I'll try this one over here. The longer bristles give me a little more of that flick. Lets me do a nice tapered line. Okay. That's a little better. quite symmetrical, but we're gonna make it do. We're gonna call that good enough. Alright, so there we go. That's the first layer of the face up. Now I'm gonna shut this off and seal this, give it about 20 minutes to dry, and then we can skip to blushing. Okay, so she is sealed and she is dry, so it is time to move on to blushing. I have opened up the pastels and I am gonna get started. I actually don't know how soft or how hard these are, so I'm going to start by just running my brushes over the different colors to see how well they work. I'm going to try to use kind of like these goldenrod colors, I guess they are, up here at the, oh wow, that actually gives me a lot of pigment just brushing over it, so that's exciting. And we're gonna try that over the brows just to see what happens, because she really is insistent on the character being blonde. She decided to name the doll Veronica, if anybody was wondering. That makes it a lot paler, but I'm not really happy with how that shows up on the tan, so I think I'm gonna stick with browns. And we'll just make it mild brown. So I really like these flat, short-haired brushes for the eyebrows, because I feel like it gives me a lot more control than what I have with anything that has longer bristles. And I have often struggled with the brows more than anything else, and I've never been able to find a technique that I'm really all that happy with. It's like the one thing that no matter how I experiment, I'm just never quite satisfied with how it comes out. But I'm always trying new things, and eventually I'll hit on something that works really well. So even though I've done, you know, like 20 something face ups at this point, I still have a lot to learn. I'm gonna have to grab my eraser to clean up these brows. But everything is just experimentation with doll customization. You have to try a lot of different things and push your boundaries regularly to try to find what works for you. That's a good start. I did not bring over my eraser, so I'm gonna grab that real quick. So if you've never seen my eraser, it is a Staedtler white vinyl eraser, and it's like a stick eraser, and I have a whole bunch of these that I got for Christmas from my parents, and I love them. They're retractable, so you know you can like push it out, and if you want, you have the option of you can trim down the size to the side of the tip to make it more angled, but these are still, this one's still pretty new, so it's still pretty square on the end. And this is just absolutely wonderful for cleaning up the edges of brows. Just a couple gentle swipes and you know it removes all the extra pastel dust, and it'll give a really nice clean line on the end. The only thing you have to watch out for is particularly this time of year for us in the United States, static electricity will build up on the head when you use the eraser, and that will affect how your pastels go on. So you have to be very careful and be very ready to deal with that, because you can end up with some very unintended looks there. So, and it leaves behind a little bit of eraser dust, but you know, you just brush that off with a brush and that's good. My camera says the battery is starting to get low, but we'll see how far I can get. Okay, I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna try these. They're kind of like a terracotta color, but I think that would be really nice for blushing around her eyes. Let's see how that looks. See, you got my static electricity right there. Fortunately, I can kind of blend it out. This is a pretty color on her skin tone, I think. It's very soft, very mild, but that's exactly what Eevee asked for, so see, there's that static. You just keep going over it, blend, 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 and it'll even out that static cling. I'm gonna bring that down a little bit by the side of her nose. These pastels are so easy to work with. I really like this. This is really nice. They're a lot softer than I thought they would be. When I use my low Cornell pastels, they're very chalky, they're very hard, and that's nice because I'm kind of heavy-handed with pastels, but this gives a nice amount of dust just brushing the bristles over it in the pan. And the reason that I decided that I wanted to try these was I actually saw them being used in a work-in-progress face-up photo that the face-up artist for Eevee House posted, and I was really surprised to see such a cheap set of pastels being used by an artist that skilled, because these pastels, it was like $12 or $13 for this whole set in the US. And it's just really impressive that you would get that many colors, and like the sticks are tiny, so this wouldn't be great for drawing, but for face-ups this is going to go a really long way. So that's a start there. Let's get some of that, and I can shade under her lip and around her nose. Probably a little bit on her chin too, but I think I'm going to use pinks on like her chin, her lips, and she wanted the lips very, very natural too, so I don't know, maybe a peachy pink would be a good choice for that. This color is so subtle on her skin tone, and I'm not sure how well it shows up on camera, but in person it just gives her a very soft glow. It looks very, very nice. Just out of curiosity though, I think I'm going to scrape some of this onto the paper just to see how it acts when I have a lot more pigment handy. I'll pull this down. I don't do anything special when I get my pastel. I just kind of, this is how I do it with the low Cornell stuff too. I just kind of scrape it on there, and then I can dust through it with my brush, so. Alright. I just turned my heater off, so if it just got a lot quieter in here, that's why. I try not to run the furnace in the upstairs because it's very, very expensive. That works really nicely too. It's not too heavy. And it takes very little pastel to get some color. Oh, I really like this. I'm gonna put some on her ears too. Alright, let's see. Pink for lips. I'll try this. It may be a little bit too intense. That's not too bad. She even wants the lips to stay very, very pale. And she's such a colorful child. I thought she would want way more intense face up. I thought she would want something kind of like the one that I did with the Winking Hanoka that had the really bright neon colors. But no, she just wants to keep it simple. Okay, I'm gonna add some more brown, I think, around the eyes and eyelashes. And I think I'm gonna use the brighter pink for blush on the cheeks. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrape a little pink down. These pastels are very soft. And let's see which brown. We'll do this one. It's pretty intense, so I'll have some more of that terracotta kind of color ready to go in case I need to mute it a little bit. Okay, so let's see. I'm brushing my brushes against a paper towel to kind of clean excess pastel dust off. Let's get just a little bit of this. We're going to put that across the lashes. That's very orange on her skin tone. I think we'll definitely mute that down. Maybe get a less saturated brown. Yeah, we're going to soften that a bit. It's not too bad with the terracotta over the top. But I do want to make that more mild. Let's try this brown one. I'm going to add just a little bit of brown to the eyelid. And I'm going to blend that out in a moment. And this is really probably all the more color she's going to want around the eyes. When I asked her what color she wanted for eyeshadow, she said, "Why does she have to have eyeshadow?" So I told her I would just do some very soft browns around the eyes, just to give them a little bit of depth. Okay, I think I'm ready for pink on the cheeks. I'll put that on pretty heavy. The nice thing about doing a simple face up is that you don't need very many layers to do it. This is only my second layer, so there's a lot more pink on this cheek. Let's soften that out. And get out a little bit more because I'm going to want to put some on her chin also. I'm going to switch to a slightly fluffier blush. smooth that out. That's not bad. And I am going to add just a little bit of a violet just to the inner corner of the eyes. I'm gonna smooth that way out because it went on a little bit heavier than I expected, honestly. Just a hint. I can smooth that out a little bit more. Yeah. Very, very subtle, extra bit of color. Let's see, what else does she need? We're gonna need to do more color on the lips. I still think she needs a little bit more around the eyes. I'm going to get a slightly darker brown. That. Got a dirt smudge on there somehow. Okay. I might get away with darkening the brows just a little more. Just a hint. I think I'll put some pink in her ears. I'll add some of that same pink. I'll clean off that brush a bit. Maybe to the lips. Yeah, her lips are definitely gonna need another layer. But she wanted it so mild, I don't think I can take too many more liberties. So I'm going to seal this, and then we will move on to the next layer of blushing, and I will add the darker eyelashes. So, oh my gosh, I went outside to seal this doll and it is snowing and a snowflake landed right on her cheek and smudged her blushing. So that's kind of unfortunate. Hopefully it'll cover with another layer of pink blushing, but oh man, snow here is like really unusual, so I definitely did not expect that. But now that I've got her color sealed, it looks a little bit more intense, which happens sometimes with some sealants. Some colors get more intense, some get softer. You never really know what's going to happen. But I'm really liking the way that the color around her eyes is looking, so I'm going to just try to put a little bit more blush on the cheeks to see if I can even that out. Add some more pink to the lips. And then I think if I put a few more darker lashes on top of the lashes that I've got here, then she should be ready to go. But I've got about 15 minutes until it's bedtime, so I'm going to do my best to get it done. Let's see. Start by taking off my respirator because it's still hanging around my neck. I tried to speed up the drying on this by putting her head in front of my space heater. It's a great option for really cold weather or wet weather, is using a heater or a blow dryer. It really helps. This cheek isn't as bad, but that other one, oof. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. It's a little bit pinker than what I originally intended, but I think it'll be okay. It helps cover. There's still a little bit visible there, but it's not awful. It'll be alright. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it. If this was for anybody other than Eevee, I would probably just like completely restart because that was so disappointing, but I can redo this doll anytime for Eevee, so no problem. This is probably actually pinker than what she wanted. She had actually asked me if it was possible to leave her lips just the color that they were, and I told her that it would probably look a little bit better if we added a little bit of pink, so I'm going to soften them down. And really what she wants is she just wants them to be very, very glossy. So we'll top that with some gloss. I think that'll be okay. I am going to grab a pink pencil to add a little bit of pink to the inside of the eye. This pencil is not sharp, so I can't get it all the way into the corner. Maybe I can use a little blushing to get the rest of the way there. Let's find out. It's not exactly the same, but it's not bad. A little bit into the corner of her eye. Alright, we're gonna go with that. So, last of all, just a few more darker lashes. Let's get that dark, dark, dark brown. if I can do this without messing it up. I'm sorry for the couple weird shadows in here. Still figuring out my light placement. It's starting to sound very stormy outside. I know it's not going to pick up on the microphone, but I can hear the wind going. Strange start to the weather for a strange year. That's alright, sometimes we just have weird times and we just do the best we can. There we go. Just some real subtle changes to the lashes, but I think that made a big difference. I'm trying to think if I can get away with adding some lines to the lips. I'm thinking maybe some really light peach. I'm gonna be bold, I'm gonna try that. Even though we're still on just the third layer of the face up, I'm gonna give that a try. If it goes bad, I can always blush over it. Once again, it's like my pencil's not quite sharp enough. It's not bad though. Anytime I see people use super sharp watercolor pencils and face ups and repaints, I'm like, you're some kind of a wizard, because I cannot ever get my pencils that sharp. Okay, really soft, peachy lines, and I'm going to put more pink over the top of that. Blow off the extra. I got a little bit of terracotta left on here, I think. I'm going to put right underneath. Alright, I think that's about as far outside her request as I can go without getting in trouble, so I'm going to just dust over that, make sure there's nothing too loose. We're going to give her 2 more shots of sealant, I think, and we're going to call it a night. Okay, it is 11 p.m. and I think we are done. I am just going to add a little bit of gloss to her lips, which are very soft and subtle, like she asked for. I still think they need more color, but she said she wanted them very, very soft and pale, so the commissioner gets what they asked for, you know? Even when that commissioner is just a kid. She knows what she likes, so that's alright. We're gonna just gloss that real quick, and we're gonna call it a night. Got a little too much gloss. I've got eyelashes for her too, but before I put those in, I want to make sure that this meets Eevee's expectations. So we are just gonna stop right there. And I won't know until I put this all together in the morning how long this video is, but hopefully you've enjoyed seeing the process of a face-up going together in real time instead of being sped up. Hopefully it helped you gain a little bit more into the process that goes into it and how the layers go together and how much you can do at one time. But if you have any questions, leave me a comment. And if you want to see more face-ups in real time, by all means let me know, because I have a couple more I need to be doing pretty soon. So that's all for tonight. Thanks for joining me. Bye.